I'm going to ask that you bring your attention to the front of the room. I know you are all engrossed in very fascinating conversations, but I encourage you to hold those so that you can listen to this one. So we have a really amazing opportunity tonight to hear a conversation between these two people, one of whom is very well known in this community week to week, and one who is very probably well known for other reasons in this community. So tonight I'm going to do just a brief introduction, and then Abby's really going to carry it for us. But so this conversation is with Abbe Feeder, who many of you know so well in our community. Always here, one of the people who's been around IKAR forever, used to work at IKAR back when IKAR operated out of a closet or something like that. And now here we are. And outside of all of her work here at IKAR and all of the gratitude that we have for her here, she's also the founder of In Circle Fertility, where she coaches people through their fertility process, through their journeys after her own fertility journey. And she really is such an incredible resource to people in terms of just logistical pieces of journeys and also emotional pieces of it. And so she's really doing incredible work there. And then she's also the host of the Fertility Chick podcast, which is a venue where she really shares and other people share their storytelling around fertility and fertility journeys. And storytelling is really the way that she and Annie first found each other, through a theater and storytelling experience. And so that's how these two incredible souls found each other. And Annie, who Abby will tell us more about, some of you probably know from Seinfeld, but also more recently and more famously, actually, shockingly, from TikTok. So you never know who will be in this room, a TikTok star among us. It's not just for Gen Z, it turns out. So we will hear more about that tonight. And they're going to talk about Annie's book, The Book of Annie, which we cannot sadly sell copies of tonight because it's Shabbat, but please afterward go get this book. And it's really just an opportunity to talk together about joy and Jewishness and life together in the world and as an accidental TikTok star. So we're so glad to have you both, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Am I on? Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. Hi, guys. I'm so happy to be here. It's been quite a week for all of us, I think, in this room. And no pressure on Annie, but we're expecting you to release all of our grief and make us laugh really hard. Okay?
No problem.
Perfect. So Annie is a dear friend, an incredible human, an award-winning Moth storyteller, a writer, a teacher, an actress, a friend, a wife, and a mother. And an author. She's written several books. We are going to talk about this one, The Book of Annie, Humor, Heart, and Chutzpah from an Accidental Influencer. Annie, my love, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I actually, I've heard about this place. I've never been here before, but I always thought it was called Temple IKEA. And I thought that's so great because you can light candles and you can buy candles in the same place. So.
When I worked here, actually, people would call on the phone and ask about IKAR, literally, IKAR.
Okay.
But we are not any of those things, thankfully. So why don't we start with how you became an accidental influencer? And by that, I mean she has 400,000 followers on TikTok. And she'll tell you how and why, and we'll talk about what that means to you in this stage of your life.
Well, it's quite miraculous to me, and I still don't quite understand it. By the way, is this sound? Is there anything we can do about the sound? Closer? I think I'm too close. Really? Is this better? Okay, that was my husband telling me what to do. I've had a career as an actress. Some of you may know me from Seinfeld. I was Doris Clompus down in the Florida condo. So I'm in some of the classic Seinfeld episodes. I'm in the pen, I'm in the Cadillac, I'm in what else? Raincoats. And then they gave me a second character. I played an obnoxious woman on an airplane when Elaine is stuck in coach and Jerry's bumped up to first class. Any of you know that? Familiar with that episode?
Yeah.
Yes. Obnoxious characters are my specialty.
Typecast. You're typecast.
But I've always done this thing called storytelling. And I always felt that my audience, we belonged to a theater company. It was then called Jewish Women's Theater of New York. And I always felt I know my audience. My audience is people like me, Jewish, urban, educated, over 50, mostly women. That, I thought, was my audience. And I was wrong about that, because a young Christian friend, she's 30 years old, Mackenzie, said to me, you know, Annie, you should go on TikTok. You should tell some of your little observations about life, your little stories. And I said, TikTok? Are you crazy? Who wants to see somebody like me on TikTok? And she said, trust me, you will go viral. And that's exactly what happened. And to this day, I don't understand it, because what it means is that my audience is not just Jewish women over 60 from the Bronx. I'm getting love notes from all over the world. And the best thing was, I got a comment that said, I don't understand why I relate so profoundly to a Jewish American woman in her 80s. I am a 17-year-old Afghan boy. So that really inspired me, and I thought, well, maybe I have something to say to more than just my people, and maybe people out there are more open than I thought to somebody like me.
Well, what kind of things are you saying? And this Mackenzie who helped you get started, what did she see and want you to, what stories did she want you to tell?
She just said, be yourself. So I make observations about what we're all concerned about. Being a mother, being a wife, being a citizen, saving money. Thrifting is a big thing of mine. Everything I'm wearing, nothing was bought retail, I can assure you. And how I see life, and how I see older women. Because older women in this country, I think suddenly, finally, there's a new interest and there's a new respect for older women. I think it started with Betty White, quite frankly. And I think for the first time, people want to hear what we have to say. They think we might have some wisdom, we might have some inspiration, and we do.
Give me one or two of your videos from TikTok that have gone viral. What are you talking about?
Well,
or one of your favorites, even if it didn't go viral.
The one that has actually had over 1 billion views, I don't quite understand this. I just say, have you ever had a Krispy Kreme? Was it crispy? And Mackenzie answered no. And I went, right. That's all it was. And she put up her hand like this, because I wanted to keep talking about donuts, that donuts should be crispy. She said, Annie, you have just shot the perfect TikTok. This is going to go viral. And but I don't quite understand what people see in that. I don't understand a lot of this. That's why I call the book Accidental Influencer. I'm not sure I get, but I'm not complaining. I like the love, I like the attention. And I want to share certain, what do they call, life hacks with people.
Tell us some of your life hacks, because you have really some good ones. And I will say, since Annie's TikTok stardom, when you go anywhere with her, she'll be like, pause, I need to re-record that for TikTok. And it'll be things like, we did something with like a sweet and low, like all of her little life hacks, all the little bags she brings to restaurants to stuff things in. I'm outing you on all your secrets, but you share them on TikTok, so I feel like it's okay.
Well, the thing is, I want to amuse people, I want to have fun, but I also have some things that I want to suggest to you. And one of the things I want to suggest to you as a mantra for your life is, when someone offers you something, when someone offers you to do something, your answer should be, yeah, why not? Because I don't regret anything I've done. I only regret the things I did not do. And let me tell you how that relates to Seinfeld. In 1991, Seinfeld was not known yet. It was just starting. And my agent called and said, listen, there are a couple of lines in a show, a new show, we don't know anything about it, and a better-known actress in his office had turned it down because she said, you know, the part is too small, it's just a few lines, I don't think it's worth my while. And I said, yeah, why not? I'll go in. And I went in that one time. I did not know that the role would recur. I did not know that they would give me a second role. I did not know that the show would become the global phenomenon that it is. For those little lines, I hope this doesn't sound too crass.
Do it.
But for my total, in my 4 or 5 episodes, I don't think I have more than 27 lines. To this day, my residuals have totaled over $100,000
It's amazing.
on that show. Huh?
It's amazing.
And just because I said, yeah, why not? And also it opened doors for me, because once you were associated with that show, people looked at you in a different way. Casting people, so it opened doors. But my point is, the actress who said, no, it's not enough for me, I think she made a mistake. And anytime, have you ever said, yeah, why not, to something that changed your life?
Yeah.
You have? Like what?
My husband, right there.
It's a good example. There's a good example.
By the way, before I even said that, he was raising his hand because he knew I was going to say that. Yeah, I mean, so many things.
And the other thing is that I realize now from my TikTok experience, I have always apologized all my life for being who I am. I'm loud, I'm talkative, I'm opinionated, I'm blunt. All my life I've been told that's not an attractive quality in a woman. Hold it back, blah, 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 blah. And I've always felt bad about it. I've always felt unfeminine. Now, on TikTok, I am being celebrated for all the things that I spent my life apologizing for. So what I'm saying is, you have to own who you are, and you can't define yourself by other people's negative opinions of you. And, I'm sorry, am I talking too much? I'm not letting you...
First of all, you're not sorry. I know you're not.
I'm not,
and second of all, they were here to see you, so...
But here's the thing. Here's another example. If you put out a casting call now for an attractive older woman, I would never be called in because I'm too Jewy looking. And Hollywood does not consider my looks attractive. And so I've always accepted that. I'm not pretty, I'm ethnic, I'm charactery, I'm too Jewish looking. I've accepted that about myself, like an idiot. Guess what? Those over 400,000 people who follow me on TikTok, they tell me every day, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, you've got style, you've got class, you've got glamour. I am 85 years old. I have never in my life heard these things said to me before. And so why did I make the mistake of listening to those other jerks of what they thought about me?
Yeah.
I'm still learning.
I know there's one person who told you many times that you're beautiful, and that's your husband, Benny, who happens to be here.
Benny?
I won't embarrass you. She takes all the spotlight for the family. That's how they like it. But Benny's a wonderful artist, and he had a very different background growing up than you did. So can you share us a little?
Yes, Benny's a great artist, and more than that, he's a film producer, and he was involved in what I call one of the 10 greatest movies of all times, Babette's Feast. Now, Benny's story is quite remarkable because Benny is a Danish Jew. I don't know, do you all know the story of what happened in Denmark during the war in Denmark? You don't? I'm seeing people say. Denmark was occupied by the Germans, and in the beginning they left the Jews alone because they wanted to be nice with the Danes because they used them to get food, blah, blah, whatever. And then they decided to round up all the Jews. How many were out of how many? Well, how shall I put it? The Danish populace, as a unit, saved all their Jewish citizens. They hid them, and they sailed them across to neutral Sweden. Now, Benny was 5 years old. I get a little puh when I tell this story. His parents didn't know if the trip to Sweden would be safe. They left for Sweden. The only thing his mother took with her, and I'm not exaggerating, was her violin. And they left little Benny with Christian friends in the country. And he was told to say, and so his parents went to Sweden. Benny was left behind. And he was told to say that he was the family's name was Nielsen, very common Danish name. He was told to say that he was their nephew visiting from Copenhagen. So one day he went to the baker to buy himself a treat, and he said to the baker, "I'm going to tell you a big secret. My name really isn't Nielsen. It's Korzen." And the baker went not to the German commandant, but to the family that were hiding him, and they said, "You have to be careful. Your nephew is talking." So very shortly after that, the underground came, and they took little Benny, and they sailed him across, and his parents were waiting on the other side. How many years later was it? 25 years later, Benny was now a young film production assistant. And an American company came to do a show. It's a great show. It was a great show on Look Up and Live. They did a show about the rescue of the Danish Jews. And Benny was the translator. And he was helping, and the guys they were talking to did not really want to. Dates are very modest, and this is not a date. You don't talk about what you did. It's a very un-Scandinavian. They were very uncomfortable. But then one of the underground colleagues walked in and was introduced, and he said, "Benny, Korzen? Korzen? Didn't we once sail a little boy named Korzen across to Sweden?" So he was in the room with the people who sailed him across. So then it was beer and aquavit for the rest of the day.
And so, how did you and Benny meet?
A blind date.
A blind date. He was in the States.
Yes.
Okay. And when you met, tell me about the differences in terms of, because you guys are still pretty different. You talk about the foods you eat versus the foods that Benny,
we
you
are
guys
different.
have kept your...
We have nothing in common.
Yeah.
No, really.
Nothing.
It's true. We don't like the same TV shows. He likes news and sports. I like... We have meals in our house where if you came, it's very eccentric because I'm sitting there. Oh, I have those same shoes. I can't believe it. Oh, my God. Stop the show.
Were they thrifted?
I got to find out what she paid for those shoes because I have the same one. You come to our house at night, I have either Italian or Asian food. And Benny's idea of a great dinner is bread and cheese and herring and maybe a little liver pate or something. So, yeah, we have nothing in common.
Very different. Okay, let's talk about... I will say, I want to talk about your storytelling. We have connected through storytelling. You are one of the first women I know to have ever talked very openly and with love, actually, about your postpartum experience. If you'd be willing to share a little bit about that story, because I know it's had a big impact on, obviously, the rest of your life, and also speaks to the cultural differences between you and Benny and where you were handling it.
I made a lot of mistakes. I'm an only child. I'd never been around babies. And we decided to have the baby in Denmark because Benny was working at the time. And the baby was born, and I couldn't stop crying. And in Denmark, like in England, I think I say it in the book, strong emotions are considered bad manners. You don't do that in Denmark. You don't cry. You don't. But I don't want to tell you the whole story. I will just say that I was in a mental institution, first in Copenhagen and then in New York. Thank God, New York, by the time I had for the first 3 or 4 months of my son's life. And I thought, I've done this all wrong. I'm a failure. I wasn't prepared for this. I shouldn't have done this. And guess what? I am the best mother who ever lived. And just ask my son.
Yeah,
and my son will confirm that.
Yes.
So, it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you end up, right?
And I think you've been, for me at least, inspirational in sharing stories and how opening up those conversations helps people feel less alone. And I think that you do that a lot in your storytelling.
I want to. I try to, because you know what? The world doesn't change, especially for women. Women still suffer over the same things that they suffered in my mother's time, right? And postpartum is one of those things. We're not prepared for that because they don't teach it in medical school, not properly anyway. But anyway, oh, and then I found out a funny thing. Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you a story that I think is sad. When I did these, my mission, if I have one, is to tell amusing stories and make observations that will bring all kinds of people together. So I started to do a TikTok. Mackenzie was filming. I said, okay, I want to tell this story. Years ago, I was sitting alone on an airplane. And there was a kid sitting next to me, clearly Arab. He was from MIT. He was going home to somewhere in the Middle East for the break. And when the food came, Mohammed had ordered a kosher meal. So, of course, the yenta that I am, I say, excuse me, sir, but I noticed that you're eating kosher food, and you're clearly not Jewish. Why is that? Oh, he said, in Boston, all of the Muslim students only go to kosher butchers because, and this, the way he said it, I found so moving. He said, we can only eat meat that has been blessed by a holy man. And I found that very moving. You know, so I told the story, and Mackenzie goes, "You cannot put that on TikTok." I said, "Excuse me, why? It's such a beautiful story." Because I wanted to say at the end of the story, why don't we concentrate on what we have in common rather than always fighting about our differences? And Mackenzie said, "You cannot put that on TikTok because as soon as you say kosher, you will hear from all the Jew haters. As soon as you say Muslim, you will hear from all the Arab haters. You're going to open a can of worms." And she wouldn't let me post it. And I thought, what a sad world this is. That you can't tell a beautiful human story like that without being worried about the haters. But there are haters out there. I try and avoid them if I can. Except for Abbe.
Them?
You know, she's the hater.
I'm constantly commenting the meanest thing I can possibly find. Do you get hate? How has it been on TikTok?
Not too much. I try to protect myself. I don't. I try to, but you know, it happens. It happens. And my impulse is I want to answer them, and I've been told no. You do not do that. You
Don't
never
engage.
respond to those people.
I think we all have our weak moments where we engage by mistake.
I forget. At one point, I told a story about Benny, and somebody wrote in, "Yeah, and what are you doing about the children in Palestine? As if I'm responsible." You know. But anyway, what I do in the book also, I make observations. The book is a collection of stories, like the one I just told you about Benny. But I also make observations about us, about Jewish life. And one of them, I think it's funny. I'm going to tell you who's Jewish and who's not Jewish. So, Tennessee Williams was not Jewish. Because, but he was not Jewish, but he was gay, which is almost the same thing. Jews do not name their children after states. They name them after retail establishments like Tiffany and Macy. William Shakespeare was not Jewish, and I can easily prove it. No Jew could write a show called All's Well That Ends Well. So there are little observations like that I make here and there, just to kind of, you know.
Well, I think you're what I love about you is that you're free to say what most people are thinking, and I think that's what people on TikTok love about you.
That's what I get. The kids stop me in the street a lot. I get stopped in the street a lot, which I love because I'm an attention whore, and I think it's so great that people like me. And I say to them, because I'm so needy, I say to them, "What is it that you like about me?" Which is really, that's a really kind of, what's the word for that? Low, desperate.
Desperate.
Desperate
I was the
thing.
one desperate.
Why do you like me? And the word they always use is this word authentic, and I'm not sure I know what that means. But they say, because you're authentic. So does that mean, but I guess it goes back to, I'm all the things I was always criticized for. I'm opinionated and honest and blunt and say what I think. So again, now I'm being appreciated for my faults.
And that's what we love about you. Can we talk about the moth?
The Moth. I'm going to be on the Moth Radio Hour. Do you all know the Moth? Does everybody know the Moth?
Woohoo!
Okay, here's how my career has gone. I've been a failure for so long that it's just part of life. But when I decided I wanted to be a storyteller, I so wanted to work with the Moths. And every time I performed, I would send them a video. Hi, here's a new story. Hope to work with you soon. And I did that for 9 years without getting a response. And then finally, one day I said to Benny, you know, I give up. I know I'm good. I know I belong there, but they're clearly not interested in me. I can't put myself through this pain anymore. And the very next day, I get a call from New York. Hi, Annie, this is Catherine at the Moth. Thanks so much for your patience. We'd like you to perform on our Moth main stage in St. Louis and Berkeley and Chattanooga and Boston, and we want to put you on the radio hour and on our... And I thought, this is amazing. And when I spoke, and then I became a Moth regular. I'm going to tour again. I'm going to be on the Moth radio hour again soon. And by the way, the story that they chose was the story about my son's, to me, too Jewish wedding. But one day I said to one of them, tell me something, why did it take 9 years for you to book me? And she said very flippantly, oh, you got better. And so it is one of the things I talk about, the value of failure. Everybody, don't you think in our society, and I don't know how it is with your kids now, you're a young mom, that the kids are always told that they're great, are always told they're successful. Does anybody tell the kids, no, that's no good, that's not good enough, you fail, you know? The thing about failure is, if you're smart, you learn from it. Either you get better, or you realize it's not for you and you try something else. But if you never experience failure, if you're not allowed to experience it, if you're always told you're successful, I mean, how do you grow? I don't know, does that resonate with anybody?
Yeah.
How do you like me so far, by the way? Who here would marry? Look at this guy. Oh, this comic here, he's going.
Medium.
Yeah, right.
Oh, boy. See, he's the honest one. He's the honest one in the room. But failure, you said you think of yourself your whole life as a failure.
Well, I have been. I've been an underemployed actress and an underpublished writer. And now, at my age, at 85, I'm busier than I've ever been. I'm more successful than I've ever been.
So would you consider yourself a success now?
I would if I had more money in the bank. That means you've got to buy the book, by the way. You can get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. The Book of Annie, yes.
And we'll make her come back to sign it when it's not Shabbat if you buy it.
Oh, yeah. Good idea. I'd be happy to do that. But yes, I have a much more loving feeling about myself than I ever did in my life. I've always been struggling. You always struggle when you're an artist. That's what an artist's life is. But how shall I say? I have friends who are overnight successes, right? So it happened fast and it happened early. And I hate those people. Quite frankly, because I'm the opposite. I've been a slow, long-term failure. And now, all of a sudden, I'm getting some kind of recognition for my brilliance.
Mm-hmm. But that means something to you.
It does mean something to me. What I've always wanted is for the people I admire to admire me back. And that has started to happen. And that's very, you know...
Meaningful for you? It's meaningful for you?
It is.
One person I know who thinks you're a success most of the time is your grandson. Can we talk about him?
Oh, Max. I have a grandson. I didn't want one. Because my kids were old. They were 45 when they became parents.
Which, by the way, is not old. That is not old, I just want to say. Just saying.
To me, it was. And I thought, now they're not going to pay for our vacations anymore. They're not going to, now it's always going to be about this kid. And I was never one of those women who wanted to be a grandmother. So I adopted a kid, and he's black. I did not want a black grandchild because I figured we've got enough problems, be who we are. Now you're going to add something else to it. Now, the thing is, it worked out because the child they adopted turned out to be the most beautiful, the most intelligent, the most wonderful child in the history of the universe. I'm just saying that. That's just a fact. okay? But I know when people see us walking down the street, Max and I, they look at us, not necessarily in an evil way, but I would look too, because it's unusual, you know? And I know some of them are thinking, well, how did those two come together? They don't belong. We don't look like two people that belong together. And the fact is, we have the same musical talent, we have the same sense of humor, we have the same odd creative impulses. No child could be more like me than my adopted black grandchild. You can applaud. It's good. It's good enough.
It's the best, and he's real cute.
Because love is love, right? Love is love.
He's real cute. I will say that Annie and I have traveled together with our theater company, and she tells everybody that I'm her assistant when we travel. And there's no one else in the world I would let do that except for you, because I love you.
Wouldn't you love to have this creature as your assistant? Oh, my God.
Some people in this room have had me as their assistant, so you don't have to answer the question. I think in closing, I would love, I know, yeah, why not is one of your life mottos. Is there any other?
Yes, the yeah, no, or not, and the not to apologize for who you are, and not to fear failure. I think those are kind of important things to think about. I hope you do too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple minutes for questions, if anybody has.
Now let's hear what kind of. This guy over here better have a question.
A statement.
A statement.
Will you take a statement?
A bank statement? Oh, thank you so much.
No, I think the underlying message for me, aside from all those things you went through, the message and the strength you brought was persistence.
You are brilliant. I changed my mind about you. I thought you were a jerk before. Absolutely. It's persistence.
Sorry, my back is to you.
It's my wife.
When he was younger, he used to get mistaken for Seinfeld.
Oh, I could see that, actually. Oh, that's interesting. I could see that. Okay. Questions?
Big smile. Anybody have any other question or comment? Annie, is there anything coming up?
Do you have any questions? Yes.
Well, I'm going to plug your book real quick.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going to say, is there any, sometimes you do book readings. Is there any time that you're doing one that you know of nearby?
No. Well, I've been doing them online.
Okay.
But I don't have anything. I'm going to be on something called Bookfest, but I don't know how many. Yeah, I do stuff online.
Are you still teaching storytelling writing?
Oh, okay. This is a good thing about failure, but I will take a question. But very quickly, the book came out. I've not made a fortune on it yet, and I'm very disappointed. But because I published a book, I had to remind myself, you got a book. You sold it, you wrote it, it got published, it's there. Because I have the book, I've been invited to do something I've wanted to do for years. I'm going to teach storytelling on a college level right here at Emerson University, Emerson College. Yes. So something that I didn't think was as successful as I wanted to be yet has led me to something that I've always wanted. So, yeah. You had a question.
One of my favorite shows.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, I have a big voice. One of my favorite shows is Seinfeld. I mean, I can watch it every day for years. Now, did you happen to get to know them at all?
Yeah. Not
what
all
do you
of them,
think
but
about
a lot
Kramer?
of them. And it was fun. Jerry's a very sweet, very decent guy. Very loyal to his friends, to his family. I remember once we had to rush because it was the Jewish holidays. He wanted to we had to close down before services. And then, of course, my frenemy on the show was Estelle Harris, who played George Costanza's mother.
Oh, I love it.
And somebody else would be rehearsing a scene, and Estelle would come up to me and said, "She's not very funny, is she?" That's not a nice thing to say when you're on a set. But my favorite, I'm still friendly with Jason Alexander. My favorite person was Jerry Stiller. Because Jerry Stiller was not only brilliant on the show, but He was very educated. I met him, I ran into him during the intermission in New York. This is how intellectual I can be when I'm at my best. I went to a performance of the Moscow Art Theater of The Seagull. They came to New York. They did it in Russian with those, what do they call them, those super titles there. So you had to be a really serious theater literary person to be there. And there's Jerry Stiller. And he comes up in the intermission, and he explains to me every detail, every nuance of the play. This character represents this. He was like a university scholar. And at the end of this very impressive intellectual discourse, he says what all actors say when they run into each other. He says, "So, Annie, you working?"
I love it.
What do you think about Kramer character?
Sorry?
Think about Kramer.
Kramer.
I didn't really know him. I thought he was brilliant at what he did in the show. I think what happened to him afterwards, he just went crazy. I don't understand why he did what he did.
It is.
People, I mean, he's a genius performer. Genius.
I agree with you. Thank you.
Oh.
You've accomplished a lot in your life, clearly. And
I'm having trouble hearing you.
You've accomplished a lot in your life, and you've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot. When you look back, what are you most proud of, whether personally or professionally?
Proud of personally or professionally? Proud of, well, I took a chance with my husband. Benny and I got married. When you talk about, yeah, why not? Benny and I met in February, got married in April because he needed his green card. And my friends refused to come to the wedding. They were so angry at me. They said, "You're marrying a stranger. He'll get his papers. You'll never see him again." And I said, "No, I don't think so. I think this is real." And we just celebrated our 60th. So I am proud of that. And I am proud of my son is a decent person and has created a good life for himself. And, you know, I'm proud of that I'm smart enough to have friends like Abbe and other of our I don't have a lot of family. My friends are family to me, and I'm proud that I've created a community for myself. It's very important, I think.
I'm proud of you for that too. Did you have a question? Oh.
I guess I have to say I'm proud of being stubborn. Whoever said persistence, you're right.
Persistent.
I'm proud that I'm stubborn. My stubbornness has served me well. Now, how many of you are going to buy my book? I want to see hands so I can count the money.
The Book
when I
of
go
Annie,
home.
Humor, Heart, and Chutzpah from an Accidental Influencer.
It's on Amazon. You get on Amazon.
Get on Amazon.
And I will be happy to sign it for you.
And I've been trying to tell Annie and her husband Benny to come hang out at IKAR for years and years and years. And she finally said, "Yeah, why not?" And I hope that you'll continue to say, "Yeah, why not?"
It was
because
so warm here.
This is your community. We
You
want to
have
be your
it-
community.
Even though you can't buy a candle here, we're still happy to have you, you know.
But I think you're very lucky that you have a really warm and loving community here. I think this is a real. I'm sorry that, you know, my mother. I was not brought up with any religion deliberately. After the Holocaust, my mother said, "If there is a God, I don't like him." So my family were those kind of socialist immigrants who were very anti-religious. So you're so lucky that you share this. I envy that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being
Go
here.
look up Annie Korzen.
Thank you. And thank you, Abbe, so much for this conversation and for bringing this really incredible person to us. And we hope this is the beginning of many more opportunities to learn with you and learn from you. So Shabbat Shalom, and thank you
Shabbat
so much for
Shalom.
being here.
Thank you.
Shalom. Thank you.